Good evening, all. I was asked to do a reading on Alan Watts, and so there's an image of him up on the screen. And before I begin, I will just say again, I do not manipulate the pendulum. Okay, I've said this so many times, and I have videos out in which I do show my hand, and the work is there. I'm not trying to hide anything and make a show of it and just, manipulate and like trickery. That's just not my thing at all. So if you're one that, does not really connect with energy or, are more logic based, wanting more facts, these kinds of things, then, there's plenty out there to read in that way. But this just reads the energy. It cuts through all of the other. So you can take it for what it is and enjoy it for what it is and hopefully get something from it. If it's not your thing, I don't know why you bother. That's the bottom line. Go find something that suits your taste more. But anyway, here is Alan Watts up on our screen, and it will be interesting with him to see what comes. The person that asked was, speaking more about how he has inspired others and things with whatever his philosophy, his teachings, his speeches are. And, we'll just see what happens with him. You never know. So you do have to, hopefully remain open and see how this flows. Okay, so here we go with Alan Watts. Okay, so again, the pendulum going down, showing that he has passed. It did not feel so extremely heavy, but there is a weight to it for sure. In trying to lift it, I can feel a weight. It wants to pull back down in that way. So, okay. Okay, so he speaks more on an intellectual basis, on a philosophical basis. He is... I'm hearing wanderer. So, in terms of his life, it was one where he did connect up with a lot of people in various areas and feel like he could open their minds and open their hearts in a way to something new. And this was in the 60s. So around that time, there was a lot of experimenting. There was more openness or much openness to things that were experimental and different. And so this is when Alan Watts was, I do see like radio waves, he was coming through the radio or speaking that way around this time. Okay, and he, what am I hearing with him? It's more like a professor of sorts. Okay, so that's the feeling with him. He was like one that gave lectures to others to help awaken them, open their mind again. And with him, he okay, so let's see what this no is. He's not one that is awakened in the least, it's feeling. He has come to conclusions in himself. It's like I see a lot of writing, with periods, and he's kind of frantically doing that, like, oh, this makes sense, and this is a good one, and let's go with this pursuit of of argument, and let's follow this line. Is this what he did mostly? Okay, so he got all excited about that kind of thing and hoping that helped, get people going. But with him, it was more, going from this idea to the next and trying to connect the dots in a way that made sense for others, really was his feeling. And I am hearing architecture, so he was interested in the landscape. He was interested in certain foods. I see wine. I see a big plate of food that would, be more artistic or more bring about more nourishment or just more something of interest to humanity. Okay, there's arts in there. sciences, philosophy, a lot of speech that flows in that way. And and so he was also one that experimented himself with the drugs, LSD. This he felt was a way to, bring some explosive insights to himself. Let's see if it did. No. Okay, right away you see a no, it didn't. So, okay, and let's see, because some people do have some. Did he? Interestingly enough, it's saying no. And so this was not a helpful thing for him spiritually, was it? Okay, so no. So he felt it might be, but it wasn't. Okay, so this is not the way to awaken mind, is again what's being felt. Okay, so one is like, I don't know, I do see a cross on his forehead, which I think is speaking more to he must have been involved in some religion when he was younger, or I think there's more of a priest. I don't know. He got involved in all of that stuff, into those hierarchies of first of all more the religious stuff, and then he tried to connect things or leave that and then go into Buddhism, Zen. So he's kind of he's got these different robes on, like he felt like he'd be in this particular robe of, I don't know if it was priesthood, that's what I'm hearing, and then being more of a monk type, and so he ventured into those areas. So let's see if he found some depth when he was on his searches. Unfortunately, there's a no. I mean, I wish I could say yes. When I talk about depth, I mean direct experience of stillness, of being in the moment, and you can see it's still saying no, of letting go of his more personal experiences, of expansion. See, he did have some sense of that. I don't know if it was through drugs or some other. There was sometimes a feeling of expansion for him. Okay, so one can see this sort of turning now, okay? So, evolved. Okay, was he evolved? Okay, so in some ways in his intelligence, possibly he was evolved. This is when we talk about intelligence, which doesn't have anything to do with enlightenment. So many are so intelligent, professors, scientists and things. They may have more of a brain that is very, lit up with all this insight and scientific knowledge and these kinds of things, but certainly it doesn't equate with enlightenment. So let's see, was that him where he had some evolution in his brain? Okay, so that was there, and again, this is more like someone that would speak like a scientist, a philosopher, an amazing architect or something, trying to piece these different building blocks, I guess, of concepts, philosophies, thoughts, understandings, like building them like an architect, but doing it for others or in himself so that people could maybe have a house to come sit in and see, oh, okay, this is more a richer way, or this is a deeper way of looking at the world. And let's see, is that mostly what he brought out? Okay, it is relatively weak, it's small, but that's what he was bringing out. Why don't you look a little bit deeper at yourself? Was he able to do this inside of himself? It is a light no. It's not as heavy of a no. Even some insight, some clarity. It's not very, it's saying no, I can only go with what's here. Okay, so it was not something he directly experienced. He just was all lit up with, like I said, with thoughts, with philosophies, issues, lectures. Okay, this is really a lot of him is a lecture man. And it sounds great because he's very, he is an intelligent man in terms of brain power that way. Okay. And he knows how to work things to come out a certain way. So when he talked about no I or these ego, these kinds of things, what was that more? Was that more intellect for Alan? Was that more that way for him? He liked the idea. He liked to sort of roll it around his tongue. He liked to speak about it. as so many. But did he live that? Absolutely no, he just didn't. There's so many that come this way. Okay, maybe his lecture, let's see if it had some good use for humanity in some ways in terms of inspiring them. Okay, there is some, and it's a little bit bigger, yes, relatively light. It inspired them to look at art differently, to look at themselves a little differently, to engage with others differently, to open their minds to other possibilities and vistas, to again, awaken certain intelligence in there. So in that way, he was useful, his speech and lectures for humanity. So yes, and certainly it was the time, the conditions were very ripe. You see, it's getting bigger for those that were experimenting with new things, with opening their minds, okay? That was the time, the conditions were right, so he was good to have in those times. But, for one that could call him, again, I can only let happen what comes from the pendulum. Okay, so let's see. So no, not awakened yet, not at peace, with many thoughts like a big forest still in his mind, all kinds of things springing up there. He is, this is the way he was in life. This is his life, and also his life in the way that he lived with these, a little bit of light coming in, which were more like insights, like kind of a comet coming in and go, boom, I got it, I can put this out now, that kind of thing. Let's see if it caused him turbulence in there, this mind. Okay, so yes. So, again, all the things that come from mind, he certainly was experiencing. Okay, so let's see if there's anything else with him while in body. Okay, so he was a pleasant man to listen to for many. He had a certain voice, a certain way, a certain style that people really liked. It was kind of, I guess when you say Eastern philosophy and things, he had a way that came off where people just liked the feeling of it. And, it felt sort of exotic. It felt different in his whole way. Like, they could take a trip somewhere with him in their minds. Okay. And he, so he had that way that felt to others like, whoa, this is nice. I want to sit by this. I want to put my ear to it. I want to hear what this man has to say. A lot had that feeling. And they left feeling a little bit more there's a lot more to chew on in my mind now, but it is mental. It is mental in nature. See if there's anything else while in body. Okay, so with him, there's not this straight line at all. Let's see if that gives us any showing of what's there for him. Okay, one can see it moving there in his heart, lots of movement. Okay, so you can see this is not a straight line. It's more of a zigzaggy kind of thing. It's, got this going on too. And, okay, Watts. It came out that way. Watts was also, and I do see alcohol. I don't know if he was involved. I'm sure he experimented with other drugs. So many did then, and say yes, he did. So he got alcohol being saturating his consciousness as well, which does dampen it down. It does make him not as clear. And this, it sounds like, is what he passed away of. So he just lived a life kind of doing his own thing, like a lot of people did there and in those times, and experimenting and loving all of that life and that lifestyle. So it sounds like he had a decent life in that way, with experiences and people he met, and all the travels and things. Okay, so let's see if anything more while in body. No. And let's see if we can go to where his consciousness is now. Okay, so watts. This is what comes out with the pendulum. Watts. Watts is, I do see like a light bulb. Okay, you think of wattage of light bulbs. Okay, watts is light bulb is not completely lit in terms of being fully awake. Okay, there's a lot of darkness in it, still a little bit of lightness at the bottom. He needs to get plugged in more to the source to get his feeling, his direction, his. When I say the source, I mean the absolute or the Atman, the universal self, plugged in more there so that this light can flow from that, or his speech and things. Has that happened yet for Watts? No, it has not. Okay, I do see ripple, like a ripple, or what are the, like a whirlpool. Okay, so it's kind of, okay, is this where Watts is? Yeah, so he is still whirling around. He's really rushing around with a lot of energy. His thoughts are rather rushing, and they're going in circles. Okay, and he still has this toxicity in him. You know, these things last a long time, people, so please use caution while in this life, and keep yourself clean and cleared out as much as possible. These things linger in your spiritual body, in your energetic body as you move forward. And they, you know, some of them just come out again until it can be looked at or cleared. And so this is unfortunately still what he has in some of his field, or some of these toxins that he experimented with. We've got tobacco too, we've got alcohol. Okay, so that's just making it soggy, kind of soggy in his consciousness, boggy. Okay, and he is not, and some drowsiness to his eyes and some redness. So, you know, he has kind of like eyes that are sort of half open, like, whoa, you know, where am I, you know, kind of thing. You know, that's the feeling of him right now. And so, you know, he does have some other people around him that are kind of in that same state, kind of patting each other on the back. There's smoke around. They're just, you know, yucking it up, but they don't look real healthy around him. So these are some of the energies that are around him. Let's see if he's got any of the light or spirit beings helping him. I mean, certainly all do. And is he connecting with them? Okay, he's not connecting with them. He's still connecting with a lot of the like-minded spirits that he is about. Okay, he's still got, you know, he just wants to be that good old guy that is still in that state, unfortunately. So let's see what may move forward for Watts. I want to say wattage. I'm sorry, it just comes that way. But anyway, let's see if he's going to move forward, and that light bulb will indeed get plugged into the right place. Okay, let's see if there's a chance of that. It's very small. It's very weak. It's trembling. See how that trembles? It's very shaky still. It's just shaky. It needs a lot of grounding. It needs a lot of good, healthy light source from the ethers and the cosmos. He needs to open up to that. He's still got smoke, and he's still into that stuff. He still feel all that around him. You know, we've read some spirits on the other side that left with, you know, different drugs and smoking and things. And when we read their energy, it's been the same. Sometimes a lot of smoke is around them, toxins, you can feel it, they're groggy. So again, these things really matter to the consciousness, okay? Even the smallest thing matters. It's very important. Energy is a big thing, and it won't leave anything out. If it's there, it's there. If something's there in terms of debris, it's there. If it's not, it's not. You know, you can't magically have this disappear. So a lot of, again, what Watts needs to do is to try to connect more with angels or souls that are light around him, and not be so involved in these buddies that are around his buddy system. That's sort of perpetuating these cycles. Okay, so let's see if there's anything else with him. No. And, you know, I hope for what it's worth, hopefully the ones tuning in have enjoyed this, got something from it, or at least it was interesting. Okay. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for asking me to do this reading. I am open to doing readings. I find them to just be effortless and kind of enjoyable, actually. I don't mind him in the least. So, you know, if there's anything else, let me know. But for now, have a great night. Good night now.